Yeah, I don't know. Seeing me trying to dance around, like, I mean, it's ugly. I wouldn't recommend to put anybody through that on a video or anywhere.
In this very
Anyways,
moment, I've decided you must post a dance video to our Instagram. That's what I have decided.
yeah.
Viral.
So for those listening, Jason doesn't touch the company social media
Sorry,
stuff.
you can provide the video to Mary and I, and we'll take
Yeah.
care of getting it out.
Make sure it looks right.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we'll probably talk about that later. I'm shaking my head no for the audio listeners. So, anyways, today we're talking about careful about burnout when working from home. So, there was an interesting study that came out, and the moment that I shared this on internal channels and communications at NerdBrand, Kamari was like, "I want to be on the show. I want to talk about this." Because it's something that I think it's definitely a hot topic in a way about going back to the office, not going back to the office. What's the reason that companies want people to go back to the office? And there's not a one size fits all answer, even though there's certain media outlets that are trying to put it out there that it is, but it's not. So we're going to try to dive in today on a little bit why there's a reason for that, or at least a couple days in the office and the rest is at home, and why, especially in the context for us, since we're a brand agency and we are doing creative work. I think it does have some merit to discuss and explain that. But if you're a complete like remote IT team and you don't do a lot of brainstorming, I don't know if that's going to be the reason to get back in the office. But anyways, I'll read this. Working from home has led to the U.S. workforce increasing time at work by 10%, according to a study. We'll have a link to the study in the YouTube channel and below, so that you'll be able to click on that and read it if you like. It's a very long one. But the basic statement or argument for in-person work environments is the following. Remote work obviously eliminates in-person communication. However, we found that people did not simply replace in-person interactions with video and or voice calls. In fact, we found that shifting to firm-wide remote work caused an overall decrease in observed synchronous communication, such as scheduled meetings and audio/video calls. By contrast, we found that the remote work caused employees to communicate more through media that are more asynchronous, sending more emails and many more IMs. Media richness theory, media synchronicity theory, and previous empirical studies all suggest that these communication media choices make it more difficult for workers to convey and or converge on the meaning of complex information.
Translate.
So, the pieces that I pulled out about what is synchronous versus asynchronous. Um, Synchronous is what happens when you exchange in real time. So this, I suppose, could be considered synchronous, even though it's over video, but it's definitely something that happens in person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's where the transmitter and receiver are present in the same time and space. That's the definition.
Right.
Asynchronous obviously is not that.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it as like you're in sync versus not in sync.
Yeah.
Not the band, of course, but you know, uh, I don't know. I think there's an argument for both, and I think it's super highly dependent on what your business is, I mean, like in this, I'm curious. I looked through the study a little bit. I didn't read it all, of course, but like, what is complex work? What is complex information? I don't really understand their definition of that, because I think there are definitely things that can easily be done remote without any trouble, without any loss of like whatever productivity or outcome. And then there's
Right.
other things that like definitely are very, very, very difficult, to do if you're not sitting there in person and in sync, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and Camaria work completely remote. You convey creative campaign ideas for marketing initiatives for social media. How's that
Mm.
been going? What's your
I
all's
mean, I
opinion?
think it's to me, it's an interesting. Mary, you can give your opinion too, but I think it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, for people who don't know, Kamari and I, nobody in NerdBrand, we've never sat in person, we've never met, but we've worked together for I guess about a year at this point without having
October makes it a year.
Is it?
Actually.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So it's like, we haven't lost any clients, so that's where I that's where I look at it, and I'm like, well, it's not necessarily a detriment. I always kind of wonder, like, what's the, if you want to call it, opportunity cost? Like, what are we lacking, or what opportunities are we missing because we're not, more in sync or more synchronous? Like I said, if clients are happy, if we're happy, if our work-life balance is better because of that, I think that overall it's a net positive. I mean, sure, you're going to miss some things. You're going to maybe share fewer ideas, I guess, maybe, I don't know. But I mean, I think that's one thing the study kind of dove into, was like, they called them ties, and they're like weak ties and strong ties within a company. And you talk to different people for different reasons, and you pick up different types of information. So it's hard to know. There's like this, black hole or gray area where we don't actually know how it would be in the alternative universe. And so it's hard to say, but I think to me, it's working.
You know what's wild? I actually don't know what an office is like in person. Y'all, if y'all take into account my age, and I just graduated, and then everything went right into COVID when I got a job. I actually don't know what it's like to not work from home.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So yeah, thinking about that, I can tell you like the differences, because obviously I have different work environments. I work from home with y'all, and I do something else on the side. So like with y'all, everything's in sync with NerdBrand, right? I feel like it's great communication. I feel like we're good at collaborating whenever we need to. It's open lines of communication at all times. So as long as you have that like open line of communication at all times, and we like try to listen to understand, we make sure everyone gets the big picture before we exit calls and all that. I feel like everything like falls in line. Everything everyone is in sync, right? And there's like clear workflows that everyone understands. Like, this is what we do. This gets delegated over here, and those are like pretty clearly distinct. Is that the word? Distinct lines. Yeah, that. But I have another like work from home situation where no one knows anything at any point in time. We'll hop on a call, we'll talk in circles, then we get off the call, and it's like, what was I supposed to do? So like, and I feel like we're missing that in-person aspect, so we could really sit down and point to the things we're talking about and actually draw the bigger picture. So like, and that's a job where I'm like brainstorming a lot more with stuff. So when it gets to being like super, super duper creative with stuff, it works way much better like to be in person. When I have to really like get in a creative bag for like, but if I'm not doing that, I feel like everything else is okay.
Yeah. So administrative, operational kind of stuff is task oriented stuff is pretty easy to take care of remotely.
But when it's like a job where you have to like dream things up, and you have to go to someone, ask their opinion on this, then go to this person and ask their opinion on this, it's so much easier if you could just sit in a room. You don't have to schedule things out for next Thursday because everyone's in a different time zone. Like, it's imagine if we were in person and we could just walk to the other person's office and like just get it over with real quick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of it's a split.
Yeah.
It depends on the work environment.
Yeah, there are times where like, for web stuff, I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but I definitely don't know what XYZ entails or how much of a lift that is. So it's like, there are definitely times where I don't want to interrupt people on Slack, but I do want to answer the question. I need to answer the question for the client's sake, to be like, well, it's going to take 2 weeks. It's going to take 2 days. It's like, is this possible? Sometimes we get requests of, can we do this? And it's like, well, I'll go ask, but it'd be nice to be able to, and then like being able to bring clients into an office, especially in our industry and any kind of like B2B kind of service based industry. I think being able to bring folks into an office, your clients and things like that, and treat them. And also, if they ask a question about something, being able to pull the person who has the answer into that meeting real quick, just for a real quick aside, or have an all day meeting and brainstorm and get a bunch of stuff accomplished. I mean, there are definitely benefits to having an office, but to me, that's not to say that you can't accomplish the same things without.
For some reason, For some reason, I get the vibe that if we were all in an office, there would be like 2 hours of talking, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
people would work.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you've not worked in an office, so that's where I came from. And I've been working remotely before NerdBrand for, probably 4 or 5 years, but I spent the other 4 or 5 years of my career working in office environments, and 8:30 to 5:30, and it's like, I mean, I'm not a big person to walk around the office and start conversations with everybody. You all know me. I'm not going to sit there and walk around and chit chat a whole lot, but it still happened. We still would just go hang out and spend 3 hours not doing any work. And
Yeah.
to
Well,
some degree, that's good. To some degree, it's not.
people also think that working, when people say working has changed, like Henry Ford, of course, with the, creating the shifts and the 8-hour workday, that kind of a thing. That's where that all come from. But in our world, that is not a workday. A workday could be 9 hours, it could be three. We're not bound to a specific amount of time. It's project and due date and budget. Those are the things that bind us. And
Mhm.
the amount of time that it takes. Because I'll give you an example. If I was to code up, a navigation on a website, I'd have it done in probably about 10, 15 minutes, depending on the size and how many links. Laura may take maybe a half an hour, or she may take even less. So how do you say, well, that's an hour, but it wasn't, we're trying to hit goals, we're trying to hit targets and certain things like that. Not necessarily, as Mitch loves to say, and if he were here, he'd pontificate again. I love that word pontificate because it fits Mitch. But, you don't pay us for this, you pay us for this, pointing to my head and not our hands. And so it's a skill talent thing. I think you hit it on the head, Camaria. It's like there would be so much unproductive time in the office if we were all together, rather than productive time. And so for that, I would be like, I'm of the opinion, like, stay home. I don't really want
Yeah.
that in the office. I think if we're in the office, it's really just to kind of do some of that brainstorming, that big blue sky thinking. But if we get an office, which is possible in our future, that it would be to what John said about entertaining prospects or clients. It will also be for the blue sky thinking kind of stuff. And then everybody go home, have a nice day, have a wonderful time. That's
Yeah.
it. We're done.
See, I'm in my mind, I like the 50-50 idea, just because there's times where I do want y'all to figure out how tall I am, I'm not gonna tell you, just so you know, but I do want you guys to figure that out. And like I inside me, like, I crave the brain power, the thinking, but when I'm actually working, I actually do prefer to be by myself for long periods of time. I don't like having to ask people to help with my stuff. Like, I like to sit down and be able to knock it out. But as far as like the camaraderie aspect, I actually have a genuine appreciation for being able to do that in person in the workplace. And I feel like other things get done faster when people are together. So if you have like 2-3 days a week dedicated to like, hey, come in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like, okay.
Well, yeah. Well, even Laura. We know Laura. Laura is about, I don't know. I want to say Laura's like 5'4". I didn't know that until I met her at the drive-in. I was expecting eye to eye because I'm 5'7",
She
so
gives
I'm
me
not tall.
5'4" vibes.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, I had to go like, oh, I didn't know. That's kind of what the pandemic has done to everybody. Like, we see everybody in this format, and for all you know, I could be 7 feet tall, and I'm not. I'm 5'7". I'm the same height as Coral. John's a little shorter than I am, and Mitch is the tallest. Mitch has already pointed out I'm the tallest person at the nerd, and I'm like, all right, you win, 5'9". Go ahead.
Is that what it is? Once you're below a certain foot, like, you have to opt to be a nerd just in life as a man? Is that
Probably. I think
is that
so.
what it is? I'm not 6 foot. Dang it.
Yeah, we're gonna have a thing outside our office that has one of those big like characters out, and it says you must be this tall to ride the ride, and then you have to like if you're taller, if you're shorter than this, then you can't enter and be a nerd.
Like,
I guess.
oh, I was born to be 5'7", anime. That's where I gotta go.
I mean, you
That's
probably
my
can't be an
interest.
athlete. There's not a lot of 5'7" athletes. So
No,
it's like, what else are you gonna do besides learn a bunch of stuff to use in the world?
that's true. That's
What
true.
else?
But
You play
yeah,
To
I
me,
mean,
soccer.
you do get an appreciation because I mean, your relationships that you form at work, when you actually see them in person, I mean, the dynamic, we all see it. We're people. We're meant to sort of gather in groups anyway. So having a centralized place to do that is important. But another thing is, and I bring up Laura as an example. Laura's got a family and a husband, and my mom has even complained about this when she's trying to do stuff at home. It's just coming around like, hey, 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 because family sometimes doesn't understand you're working. Like, leave me alone. I got to get this
oh yeah,
done because
they
I'm
don't
working
they
from
don't
home.
get it. They don't get it. It's like I can do anything during the day, and it's like, yeah, you can take off. I'm like, no, I can't. I have people who like just the same as if I was sitting in a chair in an office. There's still like dependability, and not just internally but externally. People need me,
I know the
or they can't
world.
do their
Everyone who
stuff.
works from home can relate with that. People coming to buy you while can you go do this? Can you go pick so and so up? Go to the store,
Yeah.
pick me up. I'm at work.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice. At the same time, it's very nice. And with me, I have a 3-year-old in a couple weeks, and then a 10-month-old. And so it's like you've got doctor's appointments, you've got kids get sick, like is happening right now. Uh, as parents get older, it's nice to be able to go and do what you got to get done. Um, or if it, even stupid, simple stuff like if it's gonna rain and the grass needs to be cut or laundry needs to be done, like to me, that's fine to do throughout the day as long as you're getting your stuff done. And you got to be careful not to procrastinate and like put all your stuff off and pretend like you're going to work in the evenings and all that stuff. I mean, that's a challenge of it, I think. But
Yeah. Working sprints. I mean, I've always done
Midnight
that.
to 3 a.m. That's
that's regular. That's regular for you and I.
I'm about to say we get it.
I don't know
Midnight to
why.
3
I don't like it. I
Might
don't
as
like it,
well.
but it's when I get motivated.
We might as well then, for graphic design and things like that, we use the guy that actually is the godfather of NerdBrand. He named it years ago when it was just a podcast between me and him. That's his hours. He's the midnight. He's like just petting a cat and working. That's his thing at 3 a.m.
Since we're talking about studies show that messy people and people who stay up late are actually smarter.
All right, well then I'm an
So-
idiot.
Well, hey, you said it.
We're lightweight geniuses.
Either I'm an idiot or I'm just older and I'm like, it's 9:30. I'm done.
Yeah.
9:30. That's when I wake up. PM.
Kind of thinking back to like the 50-50.
Bedtime right now.
Having part of the team in the having this flexible schedule. To me, this is kind of where I'm not sure where I sit on it or if it's effective, but like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm all about flexibility. I just want the ability to go in the office when I want to, but I want to stay home when I want to and work from home. To me, you got to go one way or the other. Like if you're going to have this kind of asynchronous type of business, it's like you've got to set some sort of rigid schedule, like Tuesday through Thursday, everybody's in the office unless you have an emergency or something. Because otherwise you end up with, some of the things the study talked about where like the weak ties are talking to each other or people are talking to the weak ties and they're getting information and they're making decisions based on that. But the people who are sitting at home who aren't there to talk lose out on that information. They lose out on the conversations. And it's like, when we talk in Slack, nobody has a choice. Nobody can go in the office right now. So if you're going to make a general conversation, it happens in front of everybody. Or if you're going to talk about a particular client in a channel, everybody can come around and see that. Everybody who's relevant.
Yeah.
But you
I just
can't
had
do
a
that.
thought. My stepmom, she just got hired at one of her like dream companies. She's been stalking for like the last 3-4 years, I guess. And it's 100% remote. They've never had an office. It's a big company. They have like over 100 employees, I think. And they're based out of like Cincinnati, Texas. She's here. Other people are in like New York, whatever. She said, and I asked her, I'm like, how's like communication? Like, do you like the company? This, and that. She was like, I've never had better communication at any company a day in my life. She said, all we do is talk. literally I talked from 7 to 5 one day because it was that many meetings. But they're just like, they have good camaraderie, so they like kiki, but they also do get a lot of work done. And to deal with that in-face thing, they have they randomly meet up. So she went to Cincinnati, company paid for like hotels and everything, and everyone like worked together for those days. So that's what they do. And I thought that was really cool when I found out about that.
Yeah, like company retreats. I mean, I think
it's like the company retreat at the hotel. They might have had a seminar, but I know they worked too while they were there. So everyone got to be together, everyone who could make it.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that was cool.
There's things that I'd like to do with John, but I can't. I mean, he's got a tiny attic. It's hot. And
she was gonna say tiny baby.
He's got one of them. That's learning to walk now. She actually started walking. So yeah, Heather posted that on Facebook, but yeah, it was like on that one time that I checked Facebook to post something about the business. That's the one time in my feed that popped in. That's how I know. I'm not stalking you.
It's okay.
Yeah. But anyways, what I was going to say is that you kind of like, even from the computer perspective, like with Coral, I'm going to meet her in person for onboarding because on her machine, there's ways that are processes that you can work on your machine and tricks that I know for either Mac or Slack or ClickUp, some of the tools that we use on how to expedite a task, that sometimes can only be shown in person. So those one-time meetings are actually very beneficial because you can actually do it. And if that person learns by watching, you can then begin the process of education where they watch you do it and then you watch them do it and you kind of get that vibe going. And then you can just say, see you next week, if you want. So that piece in NerdBrand has always been something that I've wanted to do. Like, here's how I use Slack, here's how I set a reminder for myself in Slack, how I do it on my phone, how I do it on the computer. It's super easy. Here's how it's done. But if I explain it over Zoom on how it's done, it just kind of like, okay, type in / blah, 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 blah. That's the end of that session. Because everybody's busy. Everybody's got all these distractions that can be going on.
Yeah, the whole come look over my shoulder. The loss of that. I mean, that's a big loss. I think and I don't know that there's really a suitable solution at the moment.
Yeah, but it's not look over.
I'll go to the library. I go to the library and work all the time. Y'all can just meet me.
Yeah,
I love it.
We have as between myself and
drama John, sometimes. The security telling people to put their masks on. It's a great office space, guys. It's awesome.
Yeah, St. Matthew's Library. We met there. It's got some nice meeting rooms, and
I've never been there. I go to the one downtown. Now I'm gonna go there. That's really far, but I'll do it once.
It's kind of like in a weird spot because it's St. Matthew's, but where it's at is actually very nice. And we were in there. We met for an hour, reserved the space, and went in there, and not because nobody really uses that. And of course, if they listen to this podcast, they'll be like, I'm gonna do that now. So next time we have
look what you did. You're not supposed to give it away.
Yeah. I don't know how to shut up. But I want to say that looking over the shoulder is not for accountability. It is for teaching. It is for collaboration.
Right. That's what I mean.
I know a lot of people that work don't want their employer looking over their shoulder. We don't do it in that way. I don't do it in that way because I have been that person that's been in the trenches as an employee, but I've also been a business owner. So I understand both sides where you're just kind of like, or I've had to express even in our own organization, like when Jason asks a question, he's not asking for something to be done. He's asking because he has no idea and he's just kind of curious. I'm just getting update and getting information. It's not like that at all. So I just wanted to clarify that, looking over the shoulder with that. And we brought up like distractions at home that can take longer. Other distractions that work from home can cause, which increases this amount of time at work from home, is technology. Internet is not meant for business bandwidth, but rather entertainment or personal.
Mm-hmm. I've not had any troubles, but I know people who have.
He said the internet is not meant for work; it's meant for entertainment.
Well, just like
house, I'm watching Netflix. Yeah. I'm not working on it.
But it's also just the technology itself. It was not designed to support all these people working from home and the amount of bandwidth that it was going to require to each household.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's going to have to. We're going to have to figure that one out.
Yeah, Laura has been moving files from a server to another server, and she's using her bandwidth, and everything is sent in like these little packets. And so if the bandwidth dips, because bandwidth is not it's not often consistent. So a home internet connection, it may dip up and down just because somebody got on their phone and checked Facebook, or somebody's watching a movie on Netflix while you're in the other room trying to do work. Well, those packets will get dropped. And so what she's moving, it takes her 3 times as long to do that migration because she doesn't actually have a dedicated line, essentially. So things still work with wires, basically, is what I'm saying. We forget.
Wires are great.
And they're the same size.
Hashtag bring back wires.
No, it's make bigger wires.
Yeah.
Or I guess they're not bigger, but like fiber optic stuff. That's the big push.
Is this the whole hashtag?
It could be, yeah. Hashtag bring back wires.
Not big wires, but
not big ones. Yeah. We're brainstorming right now. This is how it works.
Oh,
I want that to be the hashtag. When you post the episode, you have hashtag.
I will.
That whole sentence, no spaces.
I will. I think I won't. It'll be camel face. People will be able to read it.
And you got to end it with, is that the hashtag?
Do it.
We had, I worked at a place where we had I don't know why it was this way, but the web team was actually building websites, and we were in the same room as customer support, so we could hear the phone calls. And, we were just overflow for that a lot of times because the influx of it and the nature of that business. But there was one guy we liked because he liked to screw with the customers on the phone, because they would call and want like help with password, Facebook, whatever setup. So he would constantly say what you say, like no spaces. So we told him we'd give him $1 for every time, as much as he could work in the phrase on the next call, no spaces. So he would talk to this guy and say like, "Hi, my name is No Spaces from blah blah blah, no spaces. Can I help you with no spaces?" And it was like, there's $3, We actually listened to a 15-minute call, and he said it about 70 times. So everybody in the office was like he walked away $70 that day. But it was hilarious. I'm like, wow, that person will probably never call again. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it was
a bad thing.
It was so funny.
Definitely a bad thing, most likely.
Stories from customer service. That's all I got. Anyways. The other thing that are challenges, obviously we talked about time management with family and home, which I believe also with the study increases, the time you spend at work, because it's so accessible, that's why. But the other one is office supplies and devices, business versus personal. It gets mixed up, and employers are not really aware of employee usage. A while back, John and I said, let's give all the employees a $200 credit annually for office supplies. I don't know if you knew that, Camaria, but it's like,
where's my money? No, it's fine. Where is it? Take it.
And because employees spending money on pens and papers and things like that, like that's the business responsibility. We'll reimburse it as an expense if you do it, but it's like a lot of places we noticed early in the pandemic were starting to do the same thing, because a lot of people were just running out and getting paper for the printers, and it's like in an office setting, that's not a thing you do. So
right.
You know why I don't need that? I'm still getting through supplies I bought for high school. I have unopened spools of paper and lined college rule pens, pencils.
We're coming to you.
Yeah, we're gonna
drop it out. I don't have printer paper because I don't print things. I use other people's printers, but I take notes. Y'all see, I write things down when I'm on. So obviously I overbought things in college and high school because I love to do that. So I'm still trying to get through those.
I love get a discount if we come shop in your closet.
Yeah.
Yes, it's $200 per
per session.
All right, now we see how this is gonna go. Like, all right, so she sells an office supply store right out of her closet.
I think the
$50
other one,
for one loose leaf.
the other one on devices and things like that is obviously like security.
Yeah.
Exchanging passwords, I think more, with clients, and obviously there's technology to aid with that and keep it secure.
Yeah.
But even things like, email management, I'm pretty tech savvy, but even at like PriceWeber, where I used to work, I had multiple technology issues that I couldn't fix or just didn't have time to like self solve the problem. I don't know. That's probably the worst phrase I think I've ever came up with. You get the point. Having an IT person be able to walk downstairs from their office and back up your hard drive or whatever real quick and get it taken care of. I think that's a big issue. And security, I mean, we work with an IT company. I know that's been one of their big pushes is like remote IT security and how to get that done with so many employees working from home.
Nope, that's it. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week. And remember, keep your nerd brand strong.